Day 9 of the U.S. crop tour. We're in Minnesota. We're traveling west on Highway 10 near Lake Park, Minnesota. And here's a soybean field in the background. I'm not seeing anything different from what we saw in North Dakota when we concluded our tour yesterday. Day 8, it's July 7th today. Again, this part of the country has gotten just as much rain as North Dakota did. And you can see it's pretty short looking beans. Got some drowned out areas. So this northern part doesn't look as good as I thought it would be. We're now in front of a cornfield traveling west on Highway 7 near Lake Park, Minnesota. And this is a decent looking cornfield, but it's barely waist high. It's just barely above knee high. Most likely got hit with some moisture again, a little bit delayed here. Just to give you some quick facts about Minnesota. Minnesota's ranked number 4 in corn production, number 5th in soy production. So Minnesota's a big state. It's an important state. Soys are rated 60% good to excellent. The corn is rated 65% good to excellent. This is a little bit better than what we saw in North Dakota in terms of cornfields, but hopefully as we travel further south, we'll get higher looking corn. We're now in front of a cornfield. This is a production seed field for Wensman Seeds out in Minnesota. We're just on Highway 10 going east near Becker, Minnesota. And this seed production corn was planted on time. It's typically shorter than your commercial corn, but frankly, the commercial corn we've seen thus far is not much higher. This area has had a lot of rain, as much as 25 inches just in the spring. Typically, you get about 10 inches of rain. And so, you know, the old adage, rain makes grain. Finally, we're getting some heat. It's a little cloudy today. Looks like there's some rain in the distance, but this is good looking corn here in Minnesota. We're now in front of a soybean field east of Highway 10, Becker, Minnesota, and this is a really good looking field, nice and lush and green. There's some blooming going on. As we travel east in Minnesota, it looks like it's getting better. A lot of moisture in this area, but good looking beans. We're now in front of a cornfield. We thought we left this behind in South Dakota and North Dakota. As we've traveled south on Highway 169, we're near just past Crystal Lake, or Lake Crystal in Minnesota. We continue to see this, folks. We continue to see these drowned out fields, standing water, too much moisture. Everything looks lush and green, but I'm gonna have to guess that at some point we're gonna have to subtract 3 to 5% of the acres due to just this sort of thing. It's not that the farmer couldn't get it in. They did get it in. It's just they've just gotten too much moisture in this area. We'll continue to see how southern Minnesota looks like, but so far it's been a lot of moisture thus far. We're now south of Fairmont, Minnesota. We're in another cornfield. We're about to almost conclude our tour here in Minnesota, and corn has been hit by hail. We saw some hail hit some corn in Nebraska, but not this much. The local farmers are telling us that it was a storm that came through that was 3 miles wide, 10 miles long, and it's done a lot of damage to this area. I don't think it's enough really to worry about the national average per se, but it's amazing how much damage this corn won't recover from that. You'd have to literally replant it. So we're standing in front of another soybean field here just south of Fairmont, Minnesota. This field has been destroyed by hail. There is some blooming going on, but it won't recover from that. This field will have to get ripped up, but it's too wet, so I'm not sure that's going to happen this time of the year. It's July 7th. So to conclude for the tour through Minnesota, we traveled from west from Fargo into Becker, Minnesota, and then we traveled south down into Fairmont, Minnesota, just before Minneapolis, Minnesota. And on the border of Minnesota, North Dakota, we still had issues with the drowned out conditions of standing water, pockets of holes. As we went further west, it got better, taller corn. Farmers were saying that too much moisture, 25 inches of rain versus the average of 10. And then we thought we would put the drowned out conditions and the standing water behind us, but in fact it only continued all the way down south into Fairmont. We've continued to see a little bit here in this area. Is it enough to worry about the national average? Probably not. But you were probably going to have to subtract at least 3 to 5% of the acres between South Dakota, North Dakota, and Minnesota with all that rain that they got. But again, the old adage to me means that rain makes grain. I still think there's a big crop coming. To rate the crop in Minnesota, so if I rate it from 1 to 10, I would rate the beans probably a 6. It's a little bit better than what we saw in North Dakota or South Dakota. The corn, I'm going to rate around at 6 or 7. It's a little bit behind, but everything looks green and lush, and as long as we get the heat and the moisture through July and August just to finish the crop, I think we're still pretty good. So the average yield in Minnesota for corn typically is about 160. For beans, it's in the 40s. So overall, not a bad crop in Minnesota. It's a big state, so depending on Minnesota to come through for us, if we're expected to have a very large crop this year.